So today's message affirmation is, I am healed and renewed. And we know as New Thought students that, of course, we do have the power to be healed and renewed. And when we're using this affirmation this morning, I don't want us to limit it to being healed like physically, as if you fell or you got the cold or you had some physical ailment, because we are also able to be healed and renewed emotionally. We are able to be healed if we have a fractured relationship with a family or a loved one or a neighbor or a coworker. Also, if we have a fracture within ourselves. A lot of us, we walk around, we have challenges in that perhaps there's a goal that we set for ourselves that we didn't meet, and so we go through a lot of our lives feeling disappointed in ourselves or disappointed because of maybe an altercation that we had with somebody and we didn't reveal our best self in that situation. So when you're saying this affirmation, I'm going to ask us to repeat this again because I want you to keep all those different healing options in mind when we do say healing. So don't think of just your physical body being healed. Think of your emotional body, your spiritual body, your soulful body. We know and we talk a lot about the fact that God is with us and within us, that Spirit, divine Spirit, is with us and within us, and that we reach that through the power of prayer. We reach that through our affirmations, and we reach that through even our time of meditation, taking those moments in that time of quiet oneness, quieting all the troubles and the cares and concerns in your mind and becoming one and listening to that still small voice of God as you become one with it through that meditation process. So we talk about these different ways that we do connect with the divine a lot in our messages, because I don't want to just sit up here and say, hey, do this, and it's all going to be great, because then, of course, you're going to say, well, how do I do that? It would be like if I just showed you to an empty field and said, go plant this and make your crops grow and multiply it. I didn't show you where the tool shed was with the hoe and the plow and the seeds and the water, which is a big reason why, we come every Sunday and we learn and we grow these tools. And I talked before about the repetition, just like when we were small children in grade school. We didn't write our multiplication tables once and walk away and know everything. Of course, we wrote them over and over and over and over, because it's the repetition that lets us grow, that lets us learn it. And so that's what we do here when we meet and we talk about all these different processes, all the ways that we open our minds, we open our souls to the great divine Spirit through meditation and prayers and affirmations. So as you're going through the week, know that you are healed and renewed. And ask yourself this question. Our question this week is, where do I turn in my time of need? A lot of us, we think, especially for a physical challenge, if we need to be healed, we go to the doctor. If we're depressed, maybe we go see the therapist. And if we are having a financial challenge, maybe we go to the bank or we go to a family member. And of course, these are conduits, but we know that God is absolutely our source. Our source is God. So when you're going through these challenges, and of course, I'm certainly not promoting staying home from the doctor with a broken arm, saying, I'm just going to pray this back together. Because of course, we're not that opposed to modern medicine. In fact, we believe that as New Thought students, that is a tool of God. That's one of the tools that God gave us to make sure that we get through this life and we lead these lives of, great happiness and great health and great prosperity. So that's a tool. But going within, the prayer within, going within and finding that connection to the divine Spirit, that is a great place to turn in your time of need, especially when it comes to an emotional need or the things I was mentioning earlier, fractured relationships with family, or walking around with the burden that we a lot of times feel when we're disappointed that we didn't achieve a goal, or we didn't show our better side in an altercation with a coworker or a family or a friend. So ask yourself this week, as you're going through your process and you're going through your work or your chores, where do I turn in my time of need? And make sure you ask yourself, do I turn to God? Do I take these steps? Do I use my tools that I learn every Sunday? Do I use my affirmations? Do I use prayer? Do I take time out to meditate? Because these are the things that do help us be renewed and healed. As a New Thought student, I'm a big proponent of this, that we are healed and renewed, and these options are always available to us. And I think I've also been talking in the last few weeks about some of the challenges that we've been going through at the office in my business, my other job that I do, and the comfort that I get from this faith, because I can look back, and I think I mentioned that in last month's newsletter, that if I think a few years back, if I was going through this situation, I would just be a nervous wreck because of all these challenges. And it's just, something that business goes through as it grows, the hills and the valleys of, the prosperity, and it's all fine. But because I know that I am healed and renewed, I know that I can take the time out. I can say these affirmations, and boy, do I. Our prosperity affirmation is one that gets a great workout from me very, very frequently. It's, almost like we remember the story in the Bible about the mother and her child, and they had very little, and God said, don't be afraid, just leave a little bit of oil in your vase at night, and it's always going to be refilled in the morning. So they constantly had the flour and the oil every morning to eat, because they left a little bit and they had the faith. They had faith in God. So they knew that their resource would be renewed, because they knew that God was the source of their supply. And if we have something as strong and powerful and limitless and unending as God is our supply, of course we're constantly going to be renewed. And of course we're going to be healed in every way, every day. And of course that's not to say we're not going to have some physical challenges, because those are going to come along. And of course we need to know to be very well grounded and to always have that faith in God and know that God is the source of our supply for healing and renewal in all circumstances and in all situations. And the good news is that with God, all things are possible. And I'm very fond of this, because this actually is from the book of Matthew. And I think a lot of us through our life, we've heard the very first part of that. And a lot of times people will use that and stop, and they won't go through the rest of the chapter, because in the beginning it talks about how it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. And of course that would make it seem that to be good, God-fearing people, we have to live these lives of poverty. And of course, as New Thought students, we know that that's not the case. And so when you actually read through the scripture, at the end it says, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. So we're told, by not, cutting and pasting, but reading through the whole scripture of what Christ said, that of course a prosperous man can get into heaven just as easily as anybody else, because through God all things are possible. So the good news is that with God all things are possible, and through God we always have access to healing and to the renewing power of spirit. So remember that as you walk through this week. All things are possible with God. We are healed and we are renewed, because God is the source of our supply. And with such a wonderful, incredible source, how could we ever run dry? There's never the possibility, as long as we know to be open and receptive to the power of God.